I've received some questions about how to calculate consumer surplus, producer surplus, and total surplus for the homework. So I'm going to use the equations on the practice exam to show you what you'll need to do. So here are two equations for our demand and our supply. And so in order to get our equilibrium, that is the point where the two lines intersect. So it's where quantity demanded is equal to quantity supplied. So we can set these two equations equal to each other, no matter what variable they're solved for. And now we're going to solve for Q. So I'm going to add Q to both sides. And we are up with 15 equals 2Q plus 3. Then I'll subtract 3 from both sides, ending up with 12 equals 2Q. Divide by 2, and we get that Q is 6. And now to get the price, we just plug that back into either of our equations. I'll just do demand. 15 minus 6 gives us 9 for price. If we also had done 6 plus 3, that would still give us 9 with our other equation. So let's sketch our demand and supply curves. So demand is downward sloping, supply is upward sloping. This is where they intersect at the equilibrium. Quantity is on this axis, so this number here is 6, whereas price is on the vertical axis, so this is $9. So that gives us those two things. So if we want to find consumer surplus is the difference between the price you have to pay and the price someone would be willing to pay. So this top triangle here is consumer surplus. So to find its area, it's a triangle. So we are going to use the formula of a triangle for 1/2 of the base times the height. And we have the base, because that just goes here from 0 to 6. But we don't have the height because we know it goes to 9, but we don't know this point up here. In order to find that point, it is the place on the demand curve where the quantity is 0, right? Because this quantity here is 0. So what is the price when quantity is 0? Well, we take our demand equation, we plug in 0 for quantity, and we get that that price is 15. So that's no longer unknown. We know that it's 15. So we can find our consumer surplus. Our base is the quantity essentially, so it goes from 0 to 6, which is 6. And our height goes from 15 to 9. So the area is 1/2 of 6 times 6. It will not always be the same number in both. So 1/2 of 6 is 3 times another 6 is 18. Now for producer surplus, it's the difference between the price that they would be willing to pay, shown by the equilibrium price, and the cost to produce. So this down here is producer surplus. Producer surplus, we know the base for again, but we do not have this number out here. So to get that, it's on the supply curve, and it's the price on the supply curve where the quantity is 0. Because it again is this point with a 0 quantity. So 0 plus 3 is 3. So this is really 3. So to find our area, it's 1/2 of the base, which goes from 0 to 6, 0 to 6, times our height, which is this here, which goes from 9 to 3. So it's 1/2 of 6 times 6, which is 3, times 6, which is again 18. So the producer and consumer surplus are not always the same, they just happen to be in this event. And then lastly, our total surplus, which is just the combination of consumer and producer surplus. So that's 18 plus 18 in this example, which is 36. And the last thing that we'll want to find here is total expenditures and total revenue. Since total expenditures is how much is spent on the good, and total revenue is how much money is brought in for the good, because every dollar spent goes to the producer, these two things are equal. And specifically, the amount you spend is the price of the item times the number you purchased. Same for the revenue. It's the price per unit times the quantity purchased. So going back here, we found our equilibrium to be 9, our equilibrium quantity to be 6, and 9 times 6 is $54. So the total revenue and the total expenditures is $54.